Hello there, and a very warm welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful yet often overlooked tools in estate planning, the deed of variation. This entire guide has been put together for you by the absolute experts at the renowned UK firm My Tax Accountant to really help you get your head around your options. So let's jump right in.
It's a big question, isn't it? And most of us just assume the answer is a simple yes. But what if it isn't? What if there was a way to tweak an inheritance after someone has passed away to make it work better for your family's needs today? Stay with me, because the answer is probably not what you think.
All right, first up, let's really set the scene. We need to look at a problem that families all across the UK are facing. We call it the inheritance dilemma. It's that classic situation where the best intentions from years ago just don't quite line up with the reality of right now. You see this all the time, right? This table just nails that gap between what a will says and what a family actually needs. Picture this. A will written 20 years ago leaves everything to the children, who are now financially pretty stable. But it's their kids, the grandchildren, who are struggling to scrape together a house deposit. Or maybe the will splits everything perfectly equally, but one sibling is going through a really tough time and could honestly use a bit more help. Life moves on. But wills, well, they often get left behind. And on top of all that, there's the tax man. As the 2025 budget just confirmed, the inheritance tax threshold is staying frozen at £325,000. Now, that's what you can pass on tax-free. But anything, and I mean anything above that, gets hit with a staggering 40% tax bill. And because that threshold isn't going up, more and more families are finding themselves caught in this tax net. It means a huge chunk of a loved one's legacy could just disappear, which makes smart planning not just a nice idea, but absolutely essential. So here's what we're going to cover. We've just looked at the dilemma. Next, we'll get into how you can rewrite that financial story, see these deeds in action, go through the all-important rules you have to follow, look at the common mistakes, and finish up on getting the right advice. Okay, so this brings us to the solution. You can think of this as a second chance, a way to get the inheritance right and make sure the outcome really fits your family situation today. And the key that unlocks all of this is the deed of variation. So what on earth is it? Well, to put it simply, a deed of variation is a legal document. It basically lets someone who's inheriting something say, you know what, I don't need this, or I don't need all of it, and they can redirect their inheritance to someone else. It's literally like being handed the pen to make a crucial edit in your family's financial story. Now let's be crystal clear about something. This is not some dodgy loophole or a sneaky tax dodge. No way. It is a completely legitimate, well-established planning tool that's recognized in UK law, and its status as a proper planning strategy was confirmed yet again in the 2025 budget, so you can be 100% confident that this is a solid, recognized approach. Right, let's see how this actually works in the real world. We're going to explore a few scenarios where a deed of variation can be an absolute game changer, really improving the financial outcome for a family. So why would you do this? Well, the reasons are really varied. Probably the biggest one is to pass assets straight down to the next generation, your kids or grandkids. We call that generation skipping. But you can also use it to help someone who was left out, maybe a new grandchild who wasn't born when the will was written, or you could use it to even things out between beneficiaries, slash the overall tax bill, or just fix the simple mistake. It's an incredibly flexible tool. Let's make this a bit more real. Meet Alex. Alex is a freelance graphic designer in London. His mom's will was written 20 years ago, and in it, she left him £200,000. Back then, that would have been life-changing. But today, well, his life looks very different. And this is what's going through Alex's mind. He's doing all right for himself, but his own kids are facing that impossible challenge of trying to buy a first home. He knows they need that £200,000 way more than he does. This is that classic generation skipping situation we just talked about, and it's where a deed of variation is just perfect. So how does this play out? Okay, without a deed of variation, Alex gets the £200,000. It lands in his bank account and becomes part of his estate. If he then gives it to his kids, it's considered a gift from him, and he has to live for another 7 years for it to be completely tax-free. You're looking at potential double taxation down the line. But with a deed of variation, it's like magic. The gift is legally treated as if his mom gave it directly to his kids. It completely bypasses him, it's only assessed for tax once, and it gets the money straight to where it needs to be, far more efficiently. And here's a quick pro tip for you. A deed of variation is super powerful, but it does have its limits. You can change what you get, the money, the property, the assets, but you can't use it to change the fundamental roles in the will, like who's in charge as an executor or who's named as a guardian. It's about the what, not the who. But that's not all. Here's another clever strategy. For those larger estates, you can use a deed of variation to redirect at least 10% of the estate to charity. Now, why would you do that? Well, it has this brilliant knock-on effect. The inheritance tax rate on the rest of the estate drops from that painful 40% down to 36%. It can be a genuine win-win. A good cause benefits, and the family can end up with more in their pocket too.
Okay, so we've seen just how useful this can be. But, and this is a big but, to get all these benefits, you have to follow the rules. They are strict and they are non-negotiable. Now, this next bit could literally save your family thousands, so stay with me here, because this is critical.
Let me say this as clearly as I possibly can. You have 2 years. 2 years. That's it. From the date of death, you have exactly 2 years to get a deed of variation signed and completed for it to work for tax purposes. Not a single day more. This is the most important deadline you need to remember.
Let's just break down that countdown. The moment someone passes away, that 24-month clock starts ticking. The first year is often a whirlwind, but by about the 18-month mark, you really need to be getting that expert legal advice and getting the document drafted, because that 24-month point is a hard stop. If you miss it, any changes you make are just a gift from you, and all those amazing tax advantages are gone. Poof. And beyond that deadline, there are 4 key things you have to get right. 1, it has to be in writing, a proper legal document. A quick note won't cut it. 2, and this is so important, everyone who's losing out from the change, even by a penny, has to agree and sign it. 3, everyone signing must be over 18 and fully understand what they're signing. And finally, 4, for the tax benefits to kick in, the deed needs very specific wording in it referencing the tax laws. Getting this bit right is everything.
Okay, so that's the basics, but here's where things get tricky, and honestly, where a lot of people can go wrong if they don't have expert help. A deed of variation is a precision instrument, and if you don't use it correctly, it can cause more problems than it solves. So let's talk about the pitfalls. First off, it's irrevocable. Once you sign it, that's it. There are no do-overs. You also can only vary the same asset once. And as we said, agreement is everything. If one person digs their heels in, the whole plan could fall apart. But here's a big one: means-tested benefits. If you give away an inheritance, the local council could see that as a deliberate deprivation of assets. This means if you later need funding for care, they might assess you as if you still have that money and refuse to pay. And finally, just getting the wording wrong can lead to a world of legal and financial pain. So I think the main thing to take away from all this is that a deed of variation is incredibly powerful, but it's also a very precise tool. It gives you so much flexibility, but the rules are tough and the risks are real. And that brings us to our final and most important point. Now, before we wrap up, I have to give you the official disclaimer. The information we've talked about today is for general guidance only. It isn't specific financial or legal advice, and you absolutely shouldn't rely on it alone to make big decisions. Everyone's situation is different. Look, because of all the complexities we've just discussed, getting help from an experienced professional isn't just a good idea, it is essential. To make sure you navigate the rules, avoid all those pitfalls, and create a document that does exactly what you want it to do, you have to talk to an expert. For top-tier advice on deeds of variation and any other tax questions, the specialists at My Tax Accountant are the people to call. Their number is 0208-570-8531, or you can email them at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. And so we finish right back where we started, but hopefully with a totally new perspective. A will isn't always the final word. And knowing that leaves just one very powerful question for you to think about. What financial story would you want to rewrite for your family? Thank you so much for your time today.